This is a 3D printer. It's similar to an ordinary printer, except that instead of depositing tiny drops of ink on paper, it deposits tiny threads of melted plastic on a platform, building up layer upon layer to produce a solid three-dimensional object. Though still in its early stages, this technology is being called revolutionary by some and capable of changing society in major ways. We'll examine this technology and what it could lead to on this episode of Future Talk. Hello, I'm Martin Wasserman, your host, and I'd now like to introduce my guests, Clay Lambert and Blaine Demlo. Clay Lambert is General Manager of the Menlo Park Tech Shop, a do-it-yourself workshop that offers access to a wide range of tools, including 3D printers. Blaine Demlo is General Manager of the San Francisco Tech Shop and is also on the advisory board of a company called Type A Machines, which operates out of the Tech Shop. Type A Machines designs and builds 3D printers, and Blaine's role is to develop new uses for the machines. Clay, we have a 3D printer right here. I understand that we're not going to be able to give an actual live demonstration tonight, but what are some of the features on this? Could you explain a little bit how this device works?
Sure. This is a desktop 3D printer. So this is a fairly entry level, under $2,000, and these have come a long way in the last couple of years. These have really evolved. This machine here, it's a really nice machine. It uses stepper motors to drive an extrusion print head in the X and Y, and then it has a screw that drives in the Z axis, in the up and down axis.
Now this machine says Type A Machines on it, so Blaine, this is actually the company that you're involved with.
That's correct.
Making this machine. Now this spool up here, that looks like the plastic thread that actually makes the plastic model. So, I mean, how does that basically work? I mean, you're melting the plastic and then you put it down and it solidifies instantly?
Yeah, the way it works is that it's drawn through the extrusion head and it's heated and it's turned into a molten state, and then it's deposited along a particular path that's been delineated by the digital design. And so basically it runs around and just makes a pathway, and it just deposits plastic out. That's why they call it additive manufacturing, because it's adding a layer, and it starts at the bottom and prints up, or however it is you decide to orient the piece on the bed or in your design. So that particular piece there...
This was actually printed on this machine?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
And so that's kind of a unique artistic piece. It's got all sorts of organic curves, which are very hard to achieve in other machine processes. This is one of the great advantages of 3D printing. And so that started at the bottom, and you can imagine if that just worked its way around printing out layer after layer, much like you build an ice cream cone, you know, when you do the self-serve, and it solidifies and builds itself up.
Now, what are some of the practical uses of this? It looks like it's good at creating, you know, little toys and knickknacks. Can you do real important stuff with it?
Yeah, this has been the latest breakthrough in that in the early days we used to joke about this, that so much of the printing that came out produced items that were, you know, little Star Wars figures or things you could buy at a dollar store, and they were novel because they helped us with design. But right now we're just on the verge of being able to do actual practical things. I brought a couple things on the table here that kind of demonstrate that. Like these two items are a good example. These are both models of industrial pieces.
You want to hold it up to the camera so we can get a good picture of it?
Yeah, thank you. These are both models of industrial pieces, and this particular one looks like it's got it's an impeller vane for a pump. And the challenge here is that if you brought this to me in a machine shop and asked me to make a copy of this for a prototype, this is about a $7,000 to $8,000 process for me to carve this out of aluminum, to draw the file and to machine it, and it's very tricky. In this orientation here, this is about a $9 part that took about 9 hours to print, but it does give us the actual dimensions to within a certain degree of accuracy, but it allows us to handle the piece. We can use this now in a mock-up assembly to see what comes next. So what this allows us to do is to do a very cheap early stage prototype, where before this stage of a prototype was impossible to produce at that price. So now what we're going to find is that a whole bunch of people, industries and inventors and entrepreneurs, are going to be able to make mechanical mock-ups of pieces that they're actually going to produce. And so we're going to move away from just whimsical features to actual pieces that represent things in machines that are going to be produced.
Now I see something interesting here. This is a chain, a series of links. Now how do you print something like this and make sure that the links can move with respect to each other and are not all stuck together.
Yeah, that's a unique, the way it's nested. And so basically when you do a drawing for the basic link and you set that up so that they're all laying next to each other and they're overlapped, and then the printer, because it's printing from the bottom up, it's going to go ahead and be able to print 2 links at a time or 3 links at a time. And when it gets to the point where they all have to be joined, since it's working in this plane, it can travel over the top and build those up until they finally connect. And so there's all sorts of interesting objects that you can print within objects that have been very popular to discuss, like this is one of them. Or there's a very popular one on YouTube where you could actually make a crescent wrench or an adjustable wrench with the thumb screw and everything, and it actually works as soon as you take it out. Or we've printed nuts on bolts before. You can take them out of the printer and they're just already screwed on and they work perfectly.
Okay, very good. And we're going to continue this conversation, but first, we recently went to the Menlo Park Tech Shop to take a look at some of the 3D printers there. Let's go ahead and roll that tape.